Tony either, CEO? No? So we'll move to officers' reports. And I'll ask Legal Counsel Tony to come up.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors, Chief Executive Officer, directors and guests. It's my privilege to present to you this morning a report dealing with amendments to two policies, repealing those two policies, the councillor expenses policy, councillor expenses reimbursement policy and the councillor facilities policy, and replacing those with a single consolidated policy, which you have before you. The consolidated policy becomes a one-stop shop. The only substantive change is in the way it is proposed to deal with vehicle expenses. So carrying forward the processes from the two policies that will be repealed in respect to all matters other than vehicle expenses. In respect of vehicle expenses, it's proposed that, like Ipswich and the state government, councillors simply resolve that there be a land travel allowance for travel on land within the towns of local government area and contiguous local government areas, so that would cover your vehicles, cabs, whatever in that area, and that there be a single payment allocated or an allowance which would be paid weekly, so that there's no reconciliations. The big plus for council, the reconciliation process is vastly more expensive than the amount of money we're dealing with for each of the councillors. So it is unwise to continue that process, and thus it's the basis of the recommendation. The amounts that have been proposed for the vehicle allowance for councillors, $22,500, and for the mayor, $24,500 per year. They're less than what...
Tony, excuse me, through you, Chair, those sums are wrong. So
I'm sorry.
It's $24,500 for councillors.
My apologies.
$27,000.
$27,500. My apologies. There's been various iterations and we were arriving at them. They're less than the amounts that are available to a Member of Parliament in the smallest electorate. So there is sense for it, and we're all aware of the increasing costs of vehicles. As councillors, it's your responsibility to be out in the community. You're going to be doing that. So the vehicle costs are there. That's the material change. Other than that, take the report as read and happy to assist with questions.
Through you, Chair. Tony, in terms of that payment, that weekly payment, is there any reporting back to council?
No. It's the council accepts that you're going to be engaged in travel.
Right.
Our reconciliation process is simply costing us a fortune to deal with what is, at the end of the day, a relatively small amount of money. So we've got staff engaged to process 11 sets of reconciliations, and the wages of that staff member is actually more than the reconciliations we're doing.
Well, okay.
So, and because of the amount of travel you do and the amount of, you know, all the sorts of different things, and there's a lack of clarity, there's can you claim an amount when you're travelling from your house to a constituent, then from a constituent to council? The answer is, in the respect of the second part, yes, you can. From your house to the constituent, you can't. This does away with all of that because all of your travel is related. You know, all of your work-related travel is encompassed in that. So there'll be a single payment. Well, there will be an amount.
Yes.
As the CEO has outlined, and that will be paid weekly in advance, and that's the end of it.
Yes.
Now, don't come to us if you spend more than that. That's not our problem.
No.
And if you travel in, you know, you can find a way. You get a Neuron scooter and you can make money out of the end of it. Well, I don't think that's likely to happen even if you do that. And by the way, you've got some workplace health and safety issues, so don't be doing that. And that's the only material change.
So I think the most glorious part of that is there's no logbook. Would that be right?
That's right. Now, be very clear. Council you can do your own taxation advice. We are not providing you taxation advice.
No.
Whether you've got need for logbooks because of taxation advice and other things, given you're getting this allowance, that's a matter for you.
Yeah.
We will be providing this allowance to cover your land travel within towns and contiguous local government areas. If you fly away, of course, you can't take your car. You'll be able to use cab charge vouchers for that. And
right.
Similarly, on Magnetic Island, we won't be expecting you to take your car across on the ferry. We'll be giving you cab charge vouchers for that. But otherwise, this covers all your land travel.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may, does this preclude us from salary sacrificing for a car?
No, it's absolutely. That is an entirely separate issue. This is just an amount. This would go towards the salary sacrifice payments that you'll be making, and again, it's prudent for every member of the community to maximise the efficiency of the taxation arrangements. There's nothing improper about that. Salary sacrifice is commonly used if you can take advantage of it, and that's a question between you and the salary sacrifice company. But that would be available. This doesn't take away from it.
Just a further question, is it not an
that's
agreement
certainly
still
not.
with the employer?
That's not taxation advice.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Councillor Mooney.
Is it still not an agreement with the employer to go with salary sacrificing?
No. So as
Then-
Tony has indicated, you would go to a third-party company and negotiate that process through them, not through council.
Through you, Mayor, I'd like to propose an amendment to the policy. In particular, I would like to propose an amendment that the amounts for councillors be $15,000 and for the mayor to be $20,000.
Can I, through you, Chair, just speak to that, Councillor Robinson? So, having previous experience with leased vehicles and logbooks and a whole raft of measures, and travelling the amount, I don't think $15,000 is a viable amount to for councillors for vehicles. I don't believe it, and I'll be happy to take further discussion from other councillors who've been in that position.
Can I add to that too, Councillor Greenie? I think, realistically, a lot of the councillors don't spend what they've got, right? But we don't always spend what we've got. Yes, we've had an increase, but it doesn't mean that just because there's $20,000 on the table, that's what we spend. So I think we're pretty frugal with what we've got, the budgets that we've set. So I think that's fair. And I understand that we want to reduce costs where possible. I don't know that that's the way forward.
Through you,
Thank
Chair,
you. If I may address and provide my reasonings. I guess when I look through the policy, I guess the words of Charles Dickens' Tales of Two Cities came to mind. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And through council, doing excellent work, and due to a range of circumstances, Townsville is looking forward to good times ahead. We have low unemployment, the lowest in the state, and through council's good work and the former stewardship of Team Hill and Mayor Hill, we have a number of multi-million-dollar projects in the pipeline. However, there is a bad side to that as well. Cost of living was a particular issue at pre-polling, with a number of residents making it quite clear that they weren't happy with rate rises and the like. Many councillors around this table here made a promise at an election, including myself, that I would try to keep rates down as much as possible. The main thing for me is the pub test, and the question of would an amount of $15,000 be considered to be reasonable by a normal person. And my indications are, from speaking to people at the pub, is that $15,000 would be deemed to be quite reasonable. I also recognise the amounts are based on the current cost and has been compared to the state and other government agencies. However, do two wrongs make a right, is the question. And state politicians will have to ask the questions themselves and consider their own conscience when they look at themselves in the mirror. The amount to be paid should be commensurate with the expected costs, and therefore I take on board Councillor Greenie's advice that perhaps $15,000 may not be sufficient, but in my mind, $15,000 is considered a reasonable amount. Tokenism. Again, people may very well say this is merely tokenism. It's a drop in the ocean for a $480 million revenue organisation, and the amounts that we would save would be minor. However, if we were to look at that from a collective perspective, then we would be talking about $400,000 over a 4-year period, amounts that could be spent in other areas. It was only last week that Councillor Ellis was championing the cause of vector control for mosquitoes in his area, a noble and erstwhile consideration. However, as anybody in business will tell you, that for every give, there must be a take. And therefore, us as councillors, this is one way that we can contribute to that. Finally, leadership. Leadership starts at the top, and it is from this that the council needs to set the example. In particular, that we need to not only be seen to be talking the talk, but actually walking it as well. In the coming months, I'm sure that we will be looking at austere measures in order to try and make council as frugal but as efficient as possible. And again, this is one possible way that we could achieve that. So that is my consideration. Please consider.
Councillor Bakovic.
Through you, Chair, just in regards to appreciate everything you've said, very detailed. I think the issue is as well, you'll know that previous councillors, when the budget's been there, it's been more than what it's costing council and us more than what's proposed. So the 15, there's no way in today's market, and I appreciate people down the pub having a chat about it, but I think it's more about get the pricing, what it actually will cost to get it. And some of the divisions, when you've got, 1, 2, and you've got ones that are going to be, or 4, who have massive distances. So their petrol is going to be huge.
I would also suggest, if I look at Councillor Ellis's division, it's
Sorry,
quite right.
yes.
Yeah, it's quite.
I didn't see him hiding over there.
I don't know how not.
In his pretty suit. But yeah, so I think, as I think you mentioned just before, Mayor, like it's, some may use more, some may use less, but I think it's, I think this has been proposed, one, to be a saving to council, but also that we're not all struggling to maintain when you're working 7 days a week driving around.
I guess the question possibly to the CEO is if we set the rates as we are, and obviously we get to that point, we know that we've got some overs on there, can they be adjusted? Once it's in policy, can we not come back and say, hey, look, there's been a lot more travel, there's a lot more demand, because what we are seeing in the community is they want more action from council. So we're going to be out there a lot more. We're going to be in their faces. So what we see, and I absolutely agree with the cost of living and the savings and everything we've got to do, but I wonder, with the demands now on council and individual councillors, we did go to the polls and we did say we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But is that going to cost us a little bit more to be able to do that? I mean, if you get out to your electors, Councillor Ellis, it's going to cost more money, isn't it?
I think through you, Chair, just before we continue, I think, unless I've read this incorrect, this is to take the ownership from council doing it to individually. This is your budget.
Managing.
You do you manage it, you figure out how that is. It's not about, changing differences, and it's trying to find.
But it's also, is it realistic? Is it realistic? So it's changing. Yes, it's changing.
Currently the increase of the way it's looked at is to cover, so everyone, it's fair and equal amongst all councillors to make sure it covers all costs. I think if it's a reduction to 15, there's no way, I can't, there's no way that mine, I know what mine was the last
If
one,
I can,
and there's no way that that would cover it.
Sorry, Chair, if I may, and I'll put my in-house counsel hat on rather than the presenter of this report. Councillor Robinson has moved a motion, to my knowledge, moved an amendment motion, to my knowledge that hasn't been seconded. Normally, Councillor Robinson wouldn't have had an opportunity to speak to the motion until it's been seconded. It is not clear to me that there is a seconder to the amendment motion. If there's no seconder to the amendment motion, much of this discussion falls away and you're left with the substantive motion. If there is a seconder to the amendment motion, then this discussion needs to proceed and you need to decide whether you're going to amend the the reimbursement policy to those amounts or not.
Maybe we take offline, and obviously there's not a seconder. That is there a seconder in the? That's at the moment.
And then once it's seconded, it can be debated.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second it. Chair, Mayor.
All right.
I'll second your motion, so it'll be debated.
So we'll open it up for debate, for and against then.
Councillor Robinson's spoken for.
Yep.
Others have spoken against. If there's further conversation for and against from any councillor, that would be the way to proceed, Chair, if you wish.
Yeah, through you, Chair, if I may. Councillor Robinson, I love your passion and I love the fact that you've got stuck into the numbers. I appreciate it. I know from my example, as has been briefly touched on, and it will be very similar for Councillor Jacob, our divisions are simply enormous. And the number that has been suggested, it looks like quite a sizable number. I can tell you, I will chew through that very, very comfortably and quickly, getting out and doing my job around Division 10, being proactive. When I go down to places like Cape Cleveland and then off to Woodstock and then a Noomba and a Dahlia, it is simply a massive task. And I am happy to accept that number. I know I will use more of it. I'm not here to get rich. I'm here to do the job.
Yep.
And I will not come back in 6 months and say, guys, I've used up the money. Can I have some more? I'll take that on myself. But I know that that number that's been suggested will create efficiencies for council, which I'm very excited about, as you mentioned, Tony. And I'm happy to accept that and cop it on my end.
Be mindful that the staff are always mindful. We're all ratepayers. We're all subject to the cost of living. We're not here naming these numbers because we think that they're generous. They are the absolute minimum we believe.
There's historical data. That's what we've got it off, is historical data, right?
And through you, Mayor, the previous terms of council, Councillor Robinson, we would have to do a logbook. We got an amount from council. We made a personal contribution. And I think the vehicle that people drive is, I know Councillor Bakovic has twin girls, so she has to make allowances for that. My father had a wheelchair. I had to make allowances for that. So it's the purchase of your vehicle, which I think is a really personal thing. And going through Summit lease for tyres, for registration, for everything, it was very, very, I think to council, quite cost prohibitive.
Oh, it was very, and again, you know, the lease, because we're dealing with the leasing company at the end, one of the matters that cost us a minor fortune, and, you know, it's just unbelievable in council, is if the leasing company is, the leasing conditions are that if the spoiler at the front of your vehicle, which is just the bottom edge of the bumper bar, is damaged, then we'll be giving them a new one at the end of the lease period, and that's just insane from our point of view.
Through
I
you,
agree.
Chair.
With Susie, can I just have a speak
Sure,
first?
go for it.
I fully agree with Councillor Ellis. In Division 1, I own an electric vehicle. To replace a battery in that vehicle because of all the travel that I've got to do the depreciation on that vehicle, as distinct from fuel, as distinct from diesel and petrol, will be a huge expense in that particular division. So that's why I agree with Councillor Ellis. And I'm hoping, even within 2 or 3 years, that half our chamber may have an electric vehicle with the same conditions.
Through you, Chair, just to follow on from Councillor Greeny's comment, I don't think it's just solely about having twin daughters. It's my legs are extra long and my twin daughters' legs are growing rapidly. They're 4 years old. They look like the size of a 5.5-year-old. So just to elaborate on that, my legs don't fit in a smart car. I have tried. It's very awkward. And then I've got car seats to go at the back.
I will also say, as you guys know, my schedule's pretty busy and I've only got 3,000 more in my budget. So that's the whole region. And look, if I can save it and I can get it under 17, I will. Absolutely. I think that's our commitment to our community is we are frugal. We do everything as best as we can. We work with the budget, but this is about setting a budget that's been put in place, agreeing on that budget moving forward. And we can discuss further about this through the when we're doing our budget workshop as well. So I think it's something that can be obviously take on notice, but we might move forward to put a vote in for it. So those.
Mayor, if I may, one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks. Tony, the important point here is that, like you said earlier, the staff haven't plucked these numbers out of their head. Is that what you're saying? This is done with a fair bit of historic data, you're saying, and on the cost of running a vehicle for the role that's entailed. Okay, great. So.
Just microphone.
By way of procedure, given that there is a seconded amendment on the table, you'd need to put the amendment motion to the vote.
Yep.
In the event that doesn't succeed, and I think it may not, then the substantive motion could be put to the vote simply to adopt the officer's recommendation.
All right. So what we might move to is a vote on the amendment. Is anybody for? So we'll note that Councillor Robinson is, and all those against, which will be every other member of council. So obviously that's defeated. So we'll now move to what was originally proposed, and we'll go to vote on that. So all of those for what was proposed by council? Yes? Sorry, I can't see Councillor Duro. Is that yes or? That's a no? Okay, so all but Councillor Duro and Ellis, no? I'm in. You're in? Okay. Can we go back? So can we go back again, please? All those in favour, please. Yep. Okay, unanimous. Yep, cool.
Was there a mover and seconder? Sorry, Chair.
There was, I mean, we
My apologies, in all the backwards and forwards, I didn't notice that the motion hadn't in fact been moved.
absolutely.
Okay. And then just for
And
completeness,
we're
Mayor, if you can
all in
retake the vote.
favour again, please? Yes, unanimous, good.
Thank you.
Move forward.